Hey guys, on this episode I have on Jose Landeo. Jose I actually met in Ecuador. As soon as I got to Quito, he was there, and then I randomly ran into him in another town when we were both at a public bath. And then I randomly ran into him walking down the street in the middle of the night in another town in Ecuador. And I wanted to interview him there, but I didn't have my gear, so I got to do it over Zoom. I was a man born in Peru who emigrated to Canada to be a civil engineer, decided he had had enough of the 9 to 5 and went and started living on a sailboat. And then over COVID said, screw it. He hopped on a bicycle and started biking from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, all the way down to Peru, back home where his parents live. And he found a dog along the way, made it his dog, took her with him. He's got a pretty amazing story of his adventure. He's been biking for months, and he's an awesome dude. I actually thought that Jose had finished his trip. He hasn't. I forgot how long it takes to get anywhere by bicycle. He's actually it was nice enough to do this from a cafe in a town, small town up in the mountains of Peru, but here he is.
I said so long, carry on, 'cause the devil wants to take me for a ride.
All right, we're rolling.
Cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Get Your Act Together. Probably thinking, where the fuck is Mike been? Ecuador. I've been lots of places. Ecuador, Florida. Now I'm in Vegas, and I have on a guest that I met in my trips, Mr. Jose Landeo. Am I saying that right, Jose?
Yeah, Jose.
Thanks for coming on. So, Jose, I met while I was in Ecuador. I met Jose in Quito at the very start of my trip, and Jose but we kind of just started trading stories around the hostel table one morning, and Jose has a pretty incredible story that I just wanted to share. Jose is still, I thought he was finished when I asked him to interview. Now I feel like an asshole that you're in a coffee shop right now on your trip, but Jose is biking from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, all the way to Lima, Peru. And you had your dog with you most of the way.
Yeah, I did. She was a dog that came into my life when I was in Mexico. I was riding through the desert of San Luis Potosí, and I'm just holding my mic like this because it's not working great. So just to make sure that you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Yeah. I was in Mexico and I got into this town, a pretty remote town in the desert, and some friends told me about this one dog that they had seen that was just by itself, didn't have a mom or anything. And then one day I just went to see this dog, and I saw that we could both benefit from each other, and we went to the vet, asked the vet if there were if there were possibilities for like getting the health back up of this dog, and then she started traveling with me, and then she was there for the next 8 months, and right now she's not traveling with me because she got pregnant during the trip.
Where did that happen?
I think it was in Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica.
And then
tends to happen, man.
Yeah.
You go on vacation, you get knocked up. What did you do once you got pregnant?
Well, we kept traveling, and then once we got to Ecuador, my parents met me in Ecuador, and then they took the dog to Lima with them.
All right.
Yeah. So she's waiting for me for now.
So you're originally from Peru, and then you got an engineering job in Canada, right?
Yeah. So
can you elaborate what made you want to leave behind that job and hop on a bike?
Well, I was living, by the time I took the decision of going on this trip. I had been living in Canada for 12 years. Um, been working in the engineering industry for 4.5 after I finished my studies, and I just thought that I wanted to do something different. I just thought that I wanted to write my own story, and I wanted to I wanted to create the I don't know, something that I felt like belonged to me.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's been a great chapter of my life. I don't regret any decision. And yeah,
Well,
all the people that I've met through the trip, the stories.
you you left the engineering job, right? And then were you on a sailboat for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
What made
So I
what made you give up this? I imagine it was a pretty well-paying job. Most engineering jobs are, and
yeah.
to leave behind this lifestyle to go hang out on a boat.
Well, so I was living in Victoria, Vancouver Island,
Hmm.
and when I decided to leave this job was when well the whole pandemic started, and a lot of big companies started feeling unsure about the just the situation of the market, and a lot of people were getting laid off, and I saw that as an opportunity. I thought, well, I can probably try something different during this time, and a friend was opening a surf shop in a little town called Tofino on Vancouver Island, and I moved there. I just put all my stuff in my car one day and drove. And when I got there, I didn't have a place to live because it's a place that has very high demand for the real estate.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just thought, well, why not a sailboat? And I bought it, and then I've been living there for the last 2 years.
Were
And then
you
I started working with this one friend.
did you leave behind your main job?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did because I felt like I just felt like it was I was just following a path where I was not necessarily seeing uh, the end of that line matching where I wanted my um, ideals to be set.
Hmm.
I felt like I was just following what somebody else had traced for me, and um, yeah, well, different engineering jobs have different ways of managing projects,
Yeah.
but um, yeah, mine was just big engineering company, and sometimes it's just starting projects and then they were delivered to another office for them to finish them. So I just I just felt like something that was fulfilling was not being met with my needs, and I I I decided to go and work with my friend, and we started just like shaping surfboards and
Yeah.
renting them to people, and yeah.
Hey, I know the emptiness of the corporate world, man. Trust me. There's we
Yeah.
had this talk. There's so after so I remember I last saw you. We met up again in Banos, and we met up again in Cuenca randomly.
Yeah.
And when I was in Cuenca, I ran into a New York City firefighter who was in Ecuador to do ayahuasca. And we talked about how sometimes back in North America, specifically the US and Canada, you kind of feel sometimes like something's missing, something spiritual, something deeper, a higher purpose, or just your own personal purpose, if you will. I know I felt that whenever I quit a job. Because eventually I go, oh, I've had all I can take, and it's going to take like a lot of money to make me stay. Not that I was even getting a lot of money to begin with, so it was very easy for me to walk away. Did you feel just were you looking for something more?
For sure.
Yeah.
I feel like at that point, I had been, how would I say, like meeting the standards of what outer success looks in society.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I had a stable salary, and I had my car. I was renting an apartment at the moment, and I felt okay, I think. And I had the illusion of being I had the illusion of stability, but just based on what society was telling me, not what I felt really. And and I think that it all changed when once I had a friend staying at my place, because I was always interested in meeting travelers.
Yeah.
And one time I had a guy from Brazil who was also traveling by bicycle, and he stayed at my place. And he did this amazing thing where he was arriving to my place with just this bicycle with 4 bags. And he told me that he had been traveling for the last 10 days. And then, like explosion of questions happened in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, and I started bombarding him with all my doubts, and you know um, about like what is it that you do during the night, how do you do for food, what do you do if like people want to um, take advantage in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things that are just based on fear came into my mind. and
Yeah.
and then um, and then he answered them with such a casual way of like um, just expressing his like, happiness, and like just his sense of uh, freedom that just was very inspiring. and
Yeah,
and I thought,
man.
well, I might be able to do something similar.
It's
And
freedom is sexy, isn't it? And when you see it, you go,
oh
"Oh
man.
man, that's a sexy woman right there."
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
baby.
yeah,
Were
yeah,
you
it's amazing.
were you afraid to leave your career? Did you?
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah. Scary, isn't
yeah,
it?
because yeah, I was just measuring everything based on what I was leaving behind and not
Uh-huh.
what I could get. And and I think that um, yeah, just like learning to travel light was one of the greatest teachings that life has offered.
Hey, I'm a big fan of simplicity. The Stoics were onto something when they talked about uh, minimalism and how you really just you don't worry about shit when you have less shit to worry about. It's a very simple idea, but it's very it's a very genuine one, and it works quite well.
Yeah,
I have a piece of shit car I'm about to get rid of, and then I don't have to worry about my shitty car anymore. It's it's
yeah,
that it's
yeah.
it's it's that simple. Where where did you get pushback or blowback from anyone when you decided to go work making surfboards on a sailboat?
Well, like sometimes the people that are the closest to you are the ones who are worried, and
Yeah.
uh, sometimes they are just uh, also because they haven't exposed themselves in certain ways. They are also coming out of that uh, source of fear.
Hmm.
And and yeah, in my case, it was my family. They were asking me why I was making that decision. And I think that as the travels went on and I started to them explaining what I was learning, and just like the teachings out of the conversations that I was having with people, um, I think that they started understanding that some sort of happiness was coming out of that, that was more fulfilling than what was being able to create with the money coming out of the salary. And I think that we have by now come to a point of understanding uh, less judgment.
Yeah. Were you noticeably happier?
I think that I feel good. I
That's
feel
what
good.
matters.
I feel very good.
Yeah.
Um, I think that learning to experience life at its fullest brings you the reality of the human experience, which is not just happiness, but at least you're aware of the truth.
Mm,
And like life has its ups and downs, but at least you're being true to yourself. You're not just living within this bubble where the system is masking everything with just these distractors
yeah.
that are very tied to money, I think.
It's something I have to go through whenever I come home and I kind of get back into the system, and then I have to find a way for it not to affect me too much. And then how do I get out of this again? How do I maintain this? How do I not lose my optics over what it is that matters to me in life? That's a it's tough. It's very distracting. It's the flashing lights of money and consumerism and base pleasures is it's it's seductive. I'm not gonna lie, but it's like a drug high or a drunk for me. It fades. Eventually, I just go, oh God, I feel gross now.
Mm, yeah.
So, after what made you decide to finally make this jump to say I'm gonna just get a bike and fuck it, man, I'm gonna ride to South America and everything that entails.
I think that it was just seeing how many people were living in fear at the time.
Yeah,
And it was just the time when the whole situation with COVID-19 was getting, um, how would I say, like, it was
out of
just
hand.
spreading fear
Yeah,
everywhere. Yes.
yeah.
And, to the point where the, that human connection that we had developed with friends was degrading. People were not, uh, I don't know, from my point of view, people were paying much more attention to the fear than to the love that they felt for their friends.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that that just was a wake up call for me, and I thought I have to do something different.
So when did you leave Vancouver?
I left. I left in August 2021.
Oh shit.
Yeah, yeah,
And so you've been because you're still in. You haven't. I actually, when I asked you, I thought you were home in Lima. You still haven't finished your trip. You're in northern Peru right now, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you've been on the road for over a year at this point.
A year, yeah, a year and 3 months, I think.
Wow,
No, yeah,
that's impressive. Are
yeah.
you glad you did it?
Oh man, I
I
couldn't be
imagine
happier about the decision.
you haven't thrown away your bike yet and flown home. So I imagine
I've
I
wanted to do it many times, believe
yeah.
me, like because when you're on that uphill, man.
COVID
But
and
then,
the fear around that is what made me start traveling too. Uh,
mm,
I left in January of 2021 is when I said I'm not doing this. I want to go live again, and I'm not gonna be afraid of human beings in the outside world. What what was uh, what was your most trying times along this journey? Because you've been on the road for a year, so I imagine you've had quite a few.
yeah, I think that it was when well, definitely when I was with my dog, I was just trying to be I guess to be like a father,
Yeah.
where you just have to like develop this sort of discipline, but at the same time show love. And um, yeah, and this dog was developing certain behaviors that I think were a reflection of who I was as well.
Yeah.
Like this dog really loves her freedom,
Yeah.
and sometimes I was like, come here. But then I was trying to understand, but like I am the one trying to look for my freedom right now. So how
Uh-huh.
could I be judged this dog? Uh,
And I'm
yeah,
and
so
I'm
that
giving you a
was
set guideline.
yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, having a dog was an amazing experience for sure.
Was it was it
And
was it
sorry?
lonely before?
Not lonely. It was just a learning process too for just I think understanding what it was like to spend time with yourself, and like for example going through the desert of Baja California was an amazing experience. I didn't see people for 5 days, and
Oh shit.
I was just riding my bicycle. I felt like I could talk to the cacti. I felt like the sand was just like becoming an own like entity in
Uh-huh.
itself. It was amazing.
Like you were communing with the earth itself.
Yeah, and like for example, we talk about ayahuasca as a way of learning how
Yeah.
to connect with the world and to connect with yourself as well. I felt that exactly the same was happening with me when I was with my bicycle. I felt so small. Everything was just perfect, and
Hmm.
I was just a part of it. I was not the center of the world. I was just like a little minuscule, um, they say, like part of the puzzle. And
Hmm.
uh,
Weren't you
yeah,
afraid, dude, driving through the desert with no people for 5 days?
it was a beautiful experience.
How did you make sure you had enough food and water?
I had enough water. I had a huge gallon with me. I was prepared because I knew that I was not going to be passing through towns.
Uh-huh.
And I had dry food as well, nuts and stuff.
Where'd you sleep?
I had my sleeping bag and my tent. Because it was a desert, many times I didn't need to use my tent. I
You
was
just
just like putting my sleeping bag, and it was a 5 million star event at night, and it was amazing. It was
you didn't
just
you
so
didn't
good.
run into any critters or wild animals?
One night I was sleeping and I heard the howling of some animals, and there were a lot of coyotes there. And yeah, I opened my eyes. I saw there were little lights, like draw the horizon, and then I just made a little fire. And apparently the fumes scared the animals, and yeah, after that it just went away.
Dude, that's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah,
Did you go through all of Baja California, the whole peninsula?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
From
did
north
you
to
take a
south.
ferry to the mainland?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
did that. Yeah, from
So
La Paz to Mazatlan.
so what's been your route? Did you take the entire go down the whole
So I left.
Pacific
Yeah, I
Northwest?
left Vancouver Island. I went to Port Angeles, from Port Angeles, West 101, and then from almost like a push, I in the state of Washington, 101 South, and then yeah, it was Washington State, Oregon, California, and then after that, kept going south along Baja, took the ferry to Mexico mainland, and then from there, I went to the mountains of Mexico, followed the mountains all the way to Oaxaca. And then from there, I went to the ocean, rode along the ocean for a little bit, then went to Chiapas to the mountains again. And then from Chiapas, yeah, all throughout Central America. And from Panama, I crossed by boat to Colombia. And
Well, yeah, you had to. Well, I remember asking you about the Darien Gap because you had considered trying to make it.
yeah, but so I was with my dog, and I just started putting, more thought into this. And uh, I had heard that there were a lot of just unfortunate cases happening there, or
Hmm.
people dying. If I would have been on my own, I would have probably,
Yeah.
but it was not my life only anymore.
Uh, Fatherhood, man. You gotta take responsibility. for
I guess so.
for my listeners that don't know, so I know not everyone knows geography as well as me. Baja California is pretty separate from the mainland of
Yeah,
Mexico. It's a very
yeah,
long peninsula, and
yeah.
the Darien Gap. So you can't drive from North America to South America. There's a place called the Darien Gap in Panama that is just very intense jungle. There's no roads through it. Only a couple people have ever made it through off-roading with some Range Rovers. A lot of people have tried and they get just lost in these giant jungle marshes. And sometimes people try and trek it and they don't always make it across, but quite a few have. So it's always, something that people have to, when you're trying to travel from North America to South America, you have that moment where you go, do I try and do this? Or do I just hop on the boat? Because the other alternative is you hop on a boat. It's It's still amazing. Most cyclists avoid the mountains though, Jose, and you just said, fuck it, man, I'm going up because I don't think people realize, because everyone thinks that when I've been to Colombia or Ecuador or even as you said, mountains of Central America and Mexico, they think, oh, I'm just roasting in the heat. And I go, dude, no, I'm at 14,000 feet. It is 60 degrees up here. It's cold right now. Uh did you ever think about just getting off the bike and calling a taxi?
Well, I mean, there were times when I was just riding uphill and there were people coming by my side and they were like, dude, just come here, hope. And, sometimes people, yes, were giving me little rides.
Yeah, you
People,
gotta
a lot of the people were giving me water along the way,
really.
fruit. You just meet so many amazing people. You meet so many amazing people, and they just like brightens that spirit for believing in man in how do I say,
In
in the nature
humanity.
of human. Yes, in that good, that what yeah, humanity, but like I don't know, the purity of like just having good thoughts with us and not like be based of fear. Sorry, just a second, this guy is
Yeah.
calling. Okay. Uh, sorry, Mike. I'm just gonna need to change spots for a second.
Yeah, you're all good, man.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So
Kicking you out already?
yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, it's just that the guy at the coffee shop was just closing it.
Oh, all right.
The thing is that there is a tradition here in this town
Yeah.
to stop all businesses between 12 and 2. They have their lunchtime.
Oh,
Everybody goes to their home and shares that time with their family, and then after that come back and continue work.
dude, that's fucking awesome. I wish I was a part of a culture that did that. I hear
Yeah,
about Mediterranean cultures doing that and certain places in Latin America doing that, where I can just go to my boss and be like, hey, I'm gonna go home and hang out with my wife and kids for a little bit and have some lunch, and then I'll come back in and finish what I started. You know?
yeah, you just realize of these little things once you're like kind of immersing yourself in the culture, and there is much more than just traveling for experiencing the sun, I think.
hmm
And I think that
I'm
that's one. Sorry.
I said I'm of the same persuasion. I think one of the most important aspects of travel is meeting the people you meet along the way. How was the
Just like
hospital?
meeting you, Mike.
Yeah, yeah, it was very random. Well, I remember Jose was eating in the hostel when I first got to Quito, and I thought you were like you didn't say anything. I said, "Hey, what's up?" But you just waved, and I was like, "Oh, maybe he doesn't speak English, or he's on a vow of silence." Before we hit it off and started talking, um, how's the hospitality been from people as you've been traveling?
Like I say, like you're riding your bicycle and people just stop you on the way and they say, "Hey, there's some fruit here. Hey, there's some water." Or best case scenario, sometimes people just tell you, "Hey, once you get to that town, come to my house."
Yeah,
Yeah, you just enjoy having this type of encounters, and yeah, it just makes you, like in my case at least, makes it creates this addiction to continue traveling by bicycle
mm.
just because of this type of experiences.
Well, a lot of this is something I try and explain to people because a lot of people I talk to are afraid to go to a lot of places, especially especially in Latin America. As Americans, people think that it's still 1990s Pablo Escobar Colombia everywhere. That not to say that there aren't places that can be dangerous. I didn't, Quito and Guayaquil are both dangerous places at night, but that doesn't mean that everywhere is. And it also, Chicago can be dangerous at night. It's not that different in the grand scheme. Did you have any situations where you thought you were in trouble or had to deal with any thieves or anything like that?
Most of the time I have just been trying to be cautious about um, like where my things are when
Hmm.
I'm in big cities, just because like we have to be realistic that they don't have the same um, opportunity for generating income as we do in North
Yeah.
America. And sometimes you're gonna have people there for might be pickpocketers and whatnot, but it's the same type of robbery that can happen when you're in big cities of Europe, like
Yeah.
Paris, Marseille, Rome. But um, like for example, right now I'm in this town of what 3,000 people, I
Hmm.
think 2,000, 3,000 people in Cajamarca. And yesterday I was with my friend. We were walking until 2 a.m. in the morning, and people were just having their day-to-day life, and
Hmm.
it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Whenever especially I've met some gringo tourists in the cities, they'll they tell me, they ask me where I'm going to, and I was like, oh, I'm going off to San Gil, a little town in Colombia. Or I'm going to some small town, and someone will go, oh, I'm afraid to go there, and I try and remind them the safest places are always the small towns. I don't know why
People are
they're
people are so
very
lovely.
friendly. The dangerous places are always big cities. Whatever continent you're on, it's the big cities. The small towns, people actually will talk to you. Hey, how's it going? What are you doing? They're very so when I was hiking the Kilo Toa Loop, I think you were at you. What's that you went to a different volcano than me.
Cotopaxi.
Yeah, you went to good. That's the beauty of Ecuador. We're both in the same town. We go to different volcanoes. You went to
Yeah.
Cotopaxi. I hiked to Quilotoa, and when I got to uh, the town after Sigchos, I forget what it was. It was very tiny. There was no like there was no corner store even really. There was no supermarket. This was a tiny 3-4 block town in the mountains, and there was a woman kind of running a small like store out of her house near the school and
Yeah.
the church. And me and Mary stopped there, and I go, hey, it says they get salchicha, they get hot dogs. And I go, hey, can you make us hot dogs? And the woman goes, let me call my sister. And she calls her sister, and she goes, my sister's gonna make it. She goes, yeah, you know what, I'll make it. And she goes, come in. And I was like, what? And she goes, come in my house. She had us come in her house and sit down and made us hot dogs and rice and salad.
That's
And
awesome.
it was great. It was very nice. Her cats and dogs started coming over, and all the animals from the neighborhood started coming in and saying hi to us. Of course, only downside was Mary didn't eat the salad because I didn't think, oh, she washed the salad in her sink. So it's the local water. So I had a rough morning the next day, but it was still worth the experience to just be in someone's home while they
Just
cook
to
for you.
interact with
For
them for sure.
it's, I think people don't realize that you can have those experiences. That in a lot of places people really are friendly and hospitable, and
Yeah,
it.
I mean, uh, yeah, like I was saying, this small town, for example, has just everything that has happened until today since I arrived has been magical. I arrived to this town initially thinking that I was going to spend here one night. I met this girl uh, who offered her place to stay, and my friend
Oh.
who is also traveling, my friend who is also traveling from Ecuador on his bicycle. He met me here. He's here with me.
Oh, hey, what's up, buddy?
he he's traveling all the way to Argentina.
Oh
So
shit.
we met here, and we decided that we're gonna be traveling from here to Cajamarca together, and then we're gonna see where the road takes us. But we met this girl. We stayed with her last night, and then she introduced us to her friends, and her friends told us about the different things that you can do in this town, and then her other friend told us that we can stay with them for the next nights, and they told us, why don't you just stay until Saturday? There's this market happening on Sunday morning, and it's been amazing, man. Like it's so good, so good. I don't know if I would be able to get the same type of experience in the city.
No, no, you wouldn't. The small town's my favorite places, to be honest.
Yeah.
What if you just said fuck it and you go to Tierra del Fuego? You go all the way to the bottom of South America, man.
You know what? You know what? It's like um, I think that it's because I started with that goal. My goal.
Let me see. There we go. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. Zoom is a pain in my ass, and I got to come when I came back in. I thought there was like a party going on, but the garbage truck was just driving by, and they were bumping music like they were the ice cream truck, but the garbage truck. Um, to pick up, we were just talking again about the beauty of small town life, especially in Latin America. It's very relaxing. What's your favorite place you've been to so far? Do you have one?
I connected very well with Mexico.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that there are certain towns in Mexico that have just found this very, I don't know, like harmonious way of like making tourism and just for tourism to meet the everyday life of the locals was not it was not running over the traditions and the lifestyle that people have. So that was just something that I really appreciated.
Hmm.
People were still able to enjoy the way they had been probably enjoyed 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Um, yeah, that was pretty special. I also enjoyed Honduras quite a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about Honduras and El Salvador being very dangerous countries, but I had a great experience,
Really.
especially Honduras. The people were very, very well, very interested in sharing their culture.
That's something that I've noticed while traveling, especially when I go to smaller towns or places where people aren't used to having foreigners, is they're excited to see tourists. It's not
Yes,
it's not a situation like Cancun where they're like, oh great, another drunken fucking asshole is gonna puke
yeah.
everywhere. Or it becomes like, hey, I just gotta pickpocket this drunk idiot, but
You know what I love about small towns is that people are not used or they have not developed this type of how would I say uh,
they're not
I
jaded.
would I would call it I would call it like a way of developing this element where you just see tourists as these money objects,
Hmm.
and here they still see you as humans, and they're interested in where you come from. And, people are not coming here to ask you for money, for example.
Yeah.
They're coming here to actually know where you're from, to also know about your culture, because they maybe don't have the opportunity to travel like you do, but they still are interested in other ways of experiencing life.
That I think that happens when a place becomes overly dominated as a tourist destination and it kind of loses its sense of self in its. So for instance, I've heard that about say Hawaii, or when I went to Cartagena. Cartagena was just, you realize that people are having a tough life there, and you kind of, so tourism is everything. It's the only lifeblood. And in a way, sometimes people get resentful because all the priorities go to the tourists, but also they're so used to tourists that they just kind of, I just, when I came back to the US, I went to Orlando, Florida, and now I'm in Las Vegas, places that are so inundated with tourism that it's just it's become the only thing that they have. So it's
Yeah,
hard to imagine it without it. So when you go to a place where they can maintain a sense of normalcy, but also
yeah.
bring in tourism, and it doesn't overwhelm the people or destroy what's great about it and make people resentful of the tourism, I think that's amazing.
Yes, and I think that what creates resentment in people, in local people, is when they see that most of the services in the town are just catered to the tourists.
Yeah.
Um, and I think now that I mentioned that, I think that that's what makes a town special. When you see tourism happening, but the businesses are still providing for the locals.
Yes. Yeah. That's a tremendous fear that I know a lot of people have. I mean, even it's something even that when Boston, I don't like going back to Boston because none of the stuff there is for locals anymore. It's for the new yuppie class of people. So
Right.
it's eventually you go, oh, why am I left out of my own home? This doesn't make any sense. This is and I've seen that. I saw that in the Yucatan and in Mexico, and I didn't like it. It was a very weird environment. What I liked was being able to go someplace where I look at a place and I go, oh, I'm gonna go in there because everyone's hanging out in there. Everyone from here is hanging out in there. It looks like a good spot to hang out in.
Yeah.
For instance, when we were in Banos, we went to the thermal spas where everyone who lived in Banos went.
All the locals were there. That
Yeah,
was awesome.
everyone's like, "Oh, you got to go to the one way up on the hill," and it's 10 times more at least. Because we think we paid $4 a person. I think it's $40 a person up on the hill, at least. But also, I didn't want to hop in a cab all and then come home all wet when I could walk 2 blocks where everyone else is and be just as fine.
Yeah.
It's I was I was like, it's not. I don't. What do I feel like I would be paying to look down on everyone and go, hey, look at me up here, my fancy rooftop spa, while you fucking yokels sit down there. I was just as happy hanging out where we were at in the where everyone was. It got crowded, but fuck it. It's
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sit in the spa for more than an hour.
Yeah. I think that the system has just created this illusion of comfortability,
Hmm.
where we are just buying into, and for that reason we feel like we have the need to make more all the time, because then having more is gonna provide this comfortable way of living, and therefore we're gonna be happier. But like, happiness, I think happiness comes out of also solving problems, and in a way of sacrificing certain things to get others, and like a
I
simple way, I guess, for me is just to like just work out that huge uphill and then get to the top of the mountain, and then I have that reward, and that's happiness for me.
it's amazing. I always tell
And
people
I
I
know
don't.
that I wouldn't be able to pay for that. Like,
No.
you cannot get that with money.
You can't buy a sense of accomplishment. That feeling you get when you climb a mountain, when you bike up a mountain, when you run a marathon, when you achieve something that you set out to do and you fucking work for it. And that feeling you get of, hey, I did this. Look at what I did. This magnificent thing. And especially when you're in the mountains or in nature, because you feel so small and insignificant. And so it makes your accomplishment feel that much more. You realize I'm this little fleshy ant, but look at me. My little ant ass climbed all the way up here, and I did it. I did it
Yeah,
because I wanted to, and I said I'm going to do it. And it wasn't easy, but I still did it. And that's the not being easy part. That's the best part. It's not fun if it's
yeah,
easy. If there's no
yeah.
fear.
Señor, oh, just like a man drops and I just,
Oh yeah. Oh,
okay,
good man.
okay.
The so what were your biggest what were your biggest takeaways? What did you really what new lessons did you learn? What was the your favorite part about this entire journey that you've been on?
That sharing is always better.
Yeah,
Um, that community creates happiness.
I really agree with that.
Um, and also and also creating community is a good way for like uh, whoever feels that is against capitalism just as an idea of like this consumerist way of like, seeing life. If you create community, then you're going you're going with that trend of sharing forcefully, and then that breaks from the idea of needing more, right?
Mhm.
And you see that in the small towns a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
that they don't have that sense of greed,
well,
because
individuality, I think, is not a thing, and uh, yeah,
it's you in the sense that as humans we're all part of something. We're not these separate. We're not as separate as we like to think we are. It's something I would agree with that. That we're communal creatures that at times are trying to act like we're lone wolves and we're not. Where because I know one of my gripes about back home is that in the U.S. You're expected to just leave behind your family and start a new house, and then well your kids are this age they have to go start. And in most places of the world you live with your family. Hey, I live in this house and my uncle lives next door with his kids and grandma, and my other cousins live next door, and your parents are there, and you live in like a compound. You're a team. Yeah, my family is my team and we're all working together to be happy. And if something happens to one of us, you get hurt or you need help, the other one helps. And we don't make fun of you or call you lazy. We go, hey, we're a team. If someone on your football team gets injured, you back them up or you take them out and you
yeah,
help out. That's what family is. That's what community is.
I agree with that too.
Yeah. What do you have planned next? Have you thought that far ahead that once you finish, what are you gonna do? Or you think you're just gonna take it as it
Uh,
comes?
I what I think is that I will be flying back to Canada with my dog,
Yeah.
and once I get back to Vancouver Island, I want to start a project where I can share with people some part of my culture, something that I was able to experience happening throughout Latin America, and that's the the cultural concept that cacao gels. Um, I would like to share it with people more than just cacao representing chocolate. to
Hmm.
me is the cultural development that hey.
Making friends already, man.
Yeah, yeah. All the cultural development that happened in Latin America, I was able to see cacao being very important in the culture all throughout Mexico,
Hmm.
uh, all throughout from Mexico to here to Peru. Every country produces cacao, and you see in towns people like families together peeling cacao, roasting them, and then sharing chocolate at night. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
Hmm.
And I would like to just share a little bit of that with the people of Canada.
That's awesome, dude. You
Yeah.
yeah, I feel you haven't had like a, how do I phrase it? You haven't had an attachment for your bike. Everything you've brought with you has literally been on your bike itself, right? So I remember seeing you leave Quito, you just had these pouches on the side of your bike.
Yeah, I have 4 panniers that go attached to my bicycle. I don't have my dog with me, so
Yeah,
instead, for now, I have a guitar, and yeah, that's how I've
that's
been
right. I
traveling.
remember you had your guitar, and I go, you, that's some dedication to, because I imagine there's some times, I said to Mary, I imagine there's some times when Jose's biking up a mountain and he goes, man, I wish I didn't bring this fucking guitar. It's,
That's true.
have you, did you have any problems crossing borders at all?
Luckily, not.
No.
Luckily, no. Everything has been fine. Um, everything has been fine.
So no problems with people, no problems with nature, no problems with traveling. You've been it really, so I guess the
You
things you
know,
were
I
worried
I
about
just
weren't
needed
there.
to change some tubes on my bicycle.
Yeah.
Once a little part of the frame broke, so I needed to bring it to a welder. But that was not a bad problem.
Yeah.
They just did their work, and because it's a steel bicycle, it was easy to fix. And then yeah, good people along the way. It's been awesome.
That's awesome, dude. It's
Yeah,
I'm happy for you, man.
thanks, man.
You seem like you were learning a lot. I know when we were talking, we talked about what we were missing, like back home in North America, things that we felt like we were missing. I mentioned, things I got through meditation and then Yahe ayahuasca. And you said this line to me that I thought, is very important. And you said, what's the difference between uh, drugs and medicine? And you said the intent, which is something that I've, kept in mind because a lot of times when I talk about sobriety with people, they meant, oh, you've taken that, that doesn't count. And I go, it's the intention. Are you taking this to run from things? Are you taking it to get better? Because I know we were talking about, medications and a lot of the foods back home. I whenever I travel, when I go to see Mary, I go, there's gonna be 2 days where I'm gonna have a stomach ache because my body takes time to figure out how to eat real food again. Because my stomach is going, there's no corn syrup in this food. What's going on here? And I just as your body, I think, takes time to adjust to eating healthy again, which is a crazy concept. That for 2 days, I'm bloated once I eat natural food and then I feel amazing. I think that your soul and your heart and your mind take some time to adjust to the type of living we're talking about. Simple living, minimal living, small town travel living. Do you ever find that when you've gone home, do you feel like you lose your peace of mind, or have you been able to keep it with you at all times?
I think that being in Canada in a small town helps,
Yeah.
but when I go to bigger cities like Vancouver, for example, I start questioning the sanity of everything that's around me. Um, it's like you arrive. And
It feels like you're in a movie, doesn't it?
man, like
It's
you
like a
know, like
bad science fiction movie.
it's like lights everywhere. You're just like overstimulated. It's like going to Walmart, you know,
Hmm.
like suddenly you're in this Walmart city and they are just bombarding you with things that you don't need.
Hmm.
And at some point you end up believing that you actually you are um, you're just not enough by being yourself and you need that,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, I don't feel like I need to go to the city that often, fortunately. And yeah, I would say I'm happy where I am.
Dude, I couldn't agree more because right now I'm in. So I noticed this when I was in Orlando, and I'm literally looking out at the Vegas Strip right now. And at night, the lights coming in were insane. And at first, you just like, this is so much. And then I started thinking, I go, man, if we just turn all these lights off, obviously you can't do that in the whole city, but you'd see some pretty amazing stars up there, right? It's just a
Yeah.
perfectly. I think a lot of people don't realize it when when you're out in a place where there's no light and you look up and you get to actually see the image of the Milky Way itself along
Wow.
that center band, and you go,
Wow.
dude, this is next level. Because what I went to some amusement parks for Halloween, and it was very strange to me that we were taking rides that mimicked real life, right? You're taking a ride. It goes, this is what it'd be like on a savannah in Africa. And I go, you could just go take a savannah in Africa. Or Epcot and Disney World, it goes, oh, this is what it's like if you were in Tokyo. And I go, you can go to Tokyo. I don't, it's, there's this weird thing where whether it's a I learned a video game or a travel destination or a movie where we go, wow, this is what it's like to climb a mountain, or would it be, but it's, you could do this. You can just go
Yeah.
climb that fucking mountain. You could ride that bike across two continents if you want to. You can do it. You can do it. You ever get stuck in some torrential rain?
A
Yeah.
lot.
Cause
Yeah.
because I think you're in the rainy season right now, aren't you?
Yeah, the rainy season is starting here in the mountains, but the rain was stronger when I was in Central America, going through Costa Rica, Panama,
Mm-hmm.
Nicaragua.
Oh man. And do you have any plans to bike anywhere else? Like
Yeah,
you want to conquer Europe and Asia, maybe?
uh, for sure. I would
Yeah.
like to finish this trip and then, but I would like to do a trip throughout Eastern Europe on my bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, visit Bulgaria, Hungary, um, Romania. I don't know. It's something that always interested me, and yeah, always. I don't know. You always hear so much about the Pyrenees, the
Mm-hmm.
Alps. That would also be a nice
Would
experience,
be
I think.
amazing. I'm happy to hear what you were saying though about keeping your peace. Sometimes when I come back from traveling, I kind of lose my sense of peace, and then I got to go find it again. And I'm really working on making sure that when I come back, it doesn't dissipate. That I can hold it with me.
You know,
You,
something that helps me is, sorry.
no, no, go ahead. What are you saying?
Oh, I was just gonna say that something that helps me is sometimes to go back to the things that I've written, and
Yeah,
that just transports me in time to when I was writing, how I was feeling um, about those
that's
words.
that's a really good idea. I've done that with when I listen to old audio recordings I've done for podcasts or something that I've written down. It brings me, when I retell my stories, it brings me back to that period and I feel it
For sure.
again. When I tell someone about what I felt when I was in the jungle, I start to, it all comes back. And then I feel that way that I did. And it's like I get to relive it again and I get back to that place and that space.
Yeah.
The I'm gonna have to get a journal. I gotta get a journal because, or it brings me back right away. That's helped a lot. And I remember, oh, if I felt this way before, I'm gonna feel this way again.
Yeah.
That and helping people. If I help people or I form a connection with someone, then I can maintain it. It starts to come back. That sense of purpose.
Yes, I
Uh,
agree.
well, dude, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know I got you outside a coffee shop on the street right now, but dude, this was fantastic. I'm really glad we got to do this. Originally, I know I'd asked, we tried to make it happen in person, and then I'd have my gear with me, and then, but I'm glad I got to talk to you. How much longer do you have in your trip to get to Lima?
I am expecting 2 more months,
Yeah.
2 more months of pedaling, and yeah. So the idea is to go all throughout the Andes, and yes, it's not gonna be the shortest way of getting to Lima, but certainly it's gonna be the most interesting way of getting there.
Dude, the short ways are
Because
no fun. They're no fun.
yeah, I mean, I think that you and I understand that because we have, like exposed ourselves to certain things, and
Yeah.
we have just seen that what brings happiness is the journey, not actually getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that that's what I'm living now. And yeah, so just before we finish,
Yeah.
want to share one little thing here. So for whoever is interested in knowing a little bit more about the story or like following the trip, this is the
At Viento _N_underscore cola. That's at VIENTO_EN_COLA.
yes,
And that's what your Instagram, right?
that's my Instagram. Yeah. So here we're still on this sticker. We're together, my dog and I,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully I get to see her soon.
You just reminded me of something when about the tougher road being the better one. I think not just literally, but metaphorically, clearly. When Mary and I were hiking the Kilo Toa Loop, I took us on a different trail than what everyone else was taking,
That's
and
awesome.
we got to two landslides. And when I say that I didn't let Mary know, I was not, I was just not going to draw attention to the fact that we were walking towards a landslide, and I'm fucking scared, and I'm really scared because I go, if Mary freaks out, we can't go back. There's not enough daylight for us to go back. We have to cross, and we're on the mountain, and it's just dirt going down. And someone went before us and kind of matted it down, but I go, I go, I'm gonna need you to do me a favor. And she goes, yeah. And I go, don't look down. And she goes, what? I go, please don't look down the mountain. You're gonna stare up, and you're gonna grab my hand, and I'm gonna yank you across this gap right here. And dude, it was one of the scariest I've ever been in my life. Because if we fell, we were falling all the way. There was no like, oh, there's a ledge. We were just going and going and going. And after it, I was like, that was pretty awesome, right? She's like, I don't want to do it again, but I was like, it's awesome, isn't it? It's- I
That's
felt
an
alive.
experience that's never gonna leave you.
Yeah, it was, I don't need cocaine when I got landslides in the mountain. Okay, it's not, it's never going to be that good as that right there when the adrenaline hits you
Oh,
when
I
you
I totally understand that, man. Like
well
sometimes I'm just going down the mountain and I'm just like screaming and all the way down, and I just can't express like how yes that adrenaline is hitting, and it's just hitting certain parts of my brain that just like excretes this type of chemicals that just like
mhm.
yeah make me feel high for sure.
It's when we were on that hike, we stopped and in a valley, and there was a farm there, and a river was running by this guy's little farmhouse, and he's got all his animals, and he's out there just chopping wood. And we sat there, the sun opened up. I fucking cried, Jose. I cried tears of just, I don't know what tears of, I've never cried because of something was so beautiful, right? I've cried out of sadness a couple of times where I've been so happy I cried, but this was, I don't know what it was. Life in that moment was just so magnificent, just right. And trust me, I've never had that experience in Times Square or anything that man made. Right there in God's green earth, in this place that was that we exist in, I welled up, and they my tears came down my cheeks. It
Wow.
was that magnificent, and I remember thinking, what else can bring me to this? You know, I'm when I surf the internet or social media, I've never found anything that makes me feel this way. It's right here, right in front of me, right now, and in that moment, I go, it really doesn't even matter what happens for the rest of the trip. This right here is this moment in time is everything. And even so when we got to Montanita, it was it was 7 days of straight dark clouds. So it was like, that's how it is. Sometimes you have that moment, and sometimes you don't, but it's all magnificent the whole way. The the vacation isn't all ups, you know. Some days
That's
you're
not a lie.
no,
That's not a lie.
no, some days you're getting soaked in rain, or riding riding down a hill, or it gets what do you do when it gets so cold? Because I don't think people realize that it gets cold in the mountains in South America. I know it's on the
Yeah,
equator, but it gets quite cold.
yeah. I just try to find a way of getting myself warmer. I just stop. I just avoid the rain when it's cold. Um, well, I have certain foods that are just very high in calories.
Hmm.
Um, I eat cacao beans that give me a lot of calories and also energy. Um, honey. There is this. There are certain bars that people here you can find here in the markets that are made out of nuts and basically nuts and honey. That's what they have, and like they're not called protein bars. They're just
Hmm.
like turrones that
Yeah.
like the little ladies sell here, and yeah, it's so good, man. So good.
So we're gonna wrap up in just a few minutes.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Land
Oh,
just yeah, it feels like land just provides what you need here. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I noticed that when I was hiking to the Lost City in Sierra Nevadas, and my guide would go, "Hey, if you have a stomach ache, eat that plant." And he goes, "Oh, that's mint. You can put that on your food." And he goes, "Oh, eat this if you have a headache." And all this stuff. You go, "Oh, you can eat that one. That one, you can rub that in your wound." The earth was providing everything we needed, and especially in the jungle. The jungle
yeah,
had just everything was there. It's the jungle is the earth's supermarket. It's as if the earth was
yeah,
like, "Hey, do you
for
want,
sure.
here's a supermarket filled with medicine and food." And we go, "Let's fucking chop it down." No, no, I want, I want to go sit in line at Walmart. I don't want that.
If mosquitoes, for example, if mosquitoes are just biting much, you just eat mango, and that
Yeah.
just makes you like more immune against it.
Dude, there's natural mosquito repellent right there. The one of the things you realize is that the earth is not your enemy. It provides, it loves you. All right. It's there
Yeah.
for you. Okay. And it's what we wanted was right here all along. Um,
And if something is happening, it just means that the earth is letting you know that you're lacking something.
mhm. So if well, he's got a few minutes left. If you could, so if anyone's listening to this, right, and they want to take a leap to go do something, an adventure, or they're working a job and they go, "I just don't feel fulfilled," or whatever. And they're afraid because we all go through this, that point of fear where you jump. Is there any recommendations you can give them? on how to get over that fear.
Just do it.
Just do
Just
it.
do whatever.
Just
Just because you're gonna learn. You're not gonna learn in the process. There is never gonna be a perfect time to start something. You know, we're always gonna find an excuse for it not being the perfect time, and we just need to do it. And on the way, we're gonna adjust whatever needs to be adjusted, and we're
Mhm.
gonna learn. Yeah.
That's thank you, man. That's a great answer, and it's something that I tell my girl when we're traveling, and she gets mad at me and goes, "What's the plan?" I say this quote by Mike Tyson, which is, "Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face." Just go do it. And oh man, I'm out and I need a flashlight. But you'll find a flashlight. You'll get one. Well, I spent a night without one. Well, now you learned your lesson. Now you know not to be outside in the desert without a flashlight. Now you learned. You're gonna live. You're gonna shit. Dude, I blew out my eardrum in Montanita. Swimming. One of the waves hit me and put a hole in my eardrum. And everyone is like, "What are you gonna do?" And I go, hope it heals. There's nothing I can do. I had the adventure. I got a ruptured eardrum. Hope it should heal. If it doesn't, fuck it. I got two ears. It was worth it. Life will come. Dude, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're having fun in your journey. Is there anywhere else people should look you up? Other than we put up your Instagram tag, right?
Instagram works. Um, I am trying to limit myself to Instagram because I also want to be present during the trip.
Absolutely.
And
Smart move.
uh, yeah, I try to write and put things on Instagram, hoping that like whatever I've written in Spanish is translated accurately. Uh, People are welcome to always ask questions, and I'll be very happy to answer and share whatever needs to be shared.
Awesome, man. Dude, thank you very much for doing this.